Not me.
TNA meets WWE. But hey, how you feeling about that ladder match?
Oh, that's going to be cake. But right now, I'm focused on the 6-woman tag match.
Yeah, she is. I see you out there. Sorry, I just had to introduce myself. So, Ruka, such a huge fan of yours.
I'm a huge fan.
No freaking way. Dude, you are so jacked. You got to tell me how much you squat.
No, you got to tell me how you do that soul snatch. Seriously.
I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be sick. Can y'all please stop kissing each other's asses? It's pathetic.
Okay, whatever, dude. I don't have time for this.
Of course, you would be the one talking about ass. You just popping up everywhere now, aren't you?
Look who's talking.
Oh, no, she didn't.
You got to take care of that.
Don't worry. I'm going to put a muzzle on her. Let me go get changed first.
These girls can just be so draining.
I'm sorry. Do we know each other?
Oh, I'm sure we do. You and I have the same last name, but we're not related.
Wow, what a coincidence.
Although everyone does know me, how could you not? Anyways, I'm sure Roxanne is not thrilled about the idea of you walking out Battleground a double champion. I would know. We're pretty close.
I love talking about championships. Jordan, don't you just love that title of yours?
I do love it. It's the most important thing to me.
But not as important as my crown.
No, I'd say it is.
It's important to me, too.
We all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
It is another week and another episode of WOW in Review. Hello, you are listening to the Rights and Wrongs, a pro wrestling podcast with your host, Mr. Green. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this show. I appreciate you all very much. It is not a lot of news as it relates to the world of wrestling outside of WOW right now. I mean, there are things going on, obviously, but it's not littered with a bunch of things. I think we could get through this relatively fast. And when we talk about that, we're talking about important things. The world of women's wrestling seems to be revolving around one Jordynne Grace at the moment. She is, as you know, the current reigning and defending Knockouts Women's Champion. However, she will be appearing at WWE's NXT Premium Live event, Battleground, and she will be taking on the NXT Women's Champion, Roxanne Perez. That is going to be a crossing of the streams that I don't think that a lot of us expected. It happening in AEW is quite a normal occurrence. And I cannot honestly say that WWE as a whole over the years has not done anything. Or for that matter, just NXT as a brand. Because Liger, when he came in, he wasn't working for NXT. He just came in to do the show. So it seems like they're getting back to a little bit of that. But the interesting thing here, reason why I jumped into that is because I heard somebody else talking about this show, another podcast. And he had a very, very interesting pitch. And I thought that, I guess in the first couple of seconds of it, I was like, oh, that'd be ridiculous. You can't do that. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, that actually is a good idea. So I'm not going to take credit for this pitch. I'm going to credit that to the Solar Monster Sounds Off, Jason Solomon. But the pitch that he had was, if I had that book, I would have Jordynne win the championship. And my gut reaction, probably like some of you right now, if you haven't heard it, was like, that never is going to happen. And why would it? WWE can't have their star lose on their, I was going to say pay-per-view, but it's not a pay-per-view, their premium live event. But then he went into some other stuff that I had forgotten about, is that Jordynne Grace has an open challenge 2 weeks later at a TNA pay-per-view. She does not have a listed challenger for her match. Never mind the fact that they did, I don't know if last I saw, I don't think they actually said anything like it's specifically for the Knockouts Championship. So the idea that he had was, if you want to get buzz around that brand, if you want to get buzz on NXT right now, have her drop the title. She loses. Grace goes back to TNA with the NXT Women's Championship. 2 weeks later, she has the open challenge. Perez can show up on their event, win the championship back, and then all is right with the world. And the more I thought about that, I was like, that does not sound bad. It's almost an all-win. Because let's face it, Jordynne Grace at some point, she's a shoe-in for WWE eventually. She's probably going to stick with not WWE. She's probably going to stick with TNA for the better portion of this year. But when it's time, she's pretty much a shoe-in to walk into that company, and they love having footage of people that they can promote. They've got at least 3 events, 4 if you want to count her just showing up. But they got footage of her in their archives right now. Jordynne Grace, and in no time that she's appeared have they made her look dumb, or they have made her look like a jobber, or they made her look less than, despite the fact that she's coming from another company. None of those things have happened. They got footage of her at the Royal Rumble. They got footage of her appearing at NXT, challenging for the NXT Women's Championship. They got footage of her wrestling in NXT. They had to make sure that they got that leading into the pay-per-view, which was also, fantastic. Who was she wrestling that night? Crap, it'll come back to me with Stevie Turner. That's who it was. So they got footage of her wrestling and winning against Stevie Turner, and they're going to have footage of her against Perez. And honestly, I do not think that TNA would have any problems providing any additional footage if necessary. It is nearly a guarantee that she will be there in WWE at some point, but that's beside the point. The point here is that it is a situation where I don't know how much more good on all sides it could be. WWE as a whole does not need TNA. The NXT brand could use their help because they're moving over to the CW. Doesn't have the buzz that it did back in the Super Indies / Black and Gold era. So getting back to those things that help make NXT special, that appearance by somebody that the NXT crowd would know. Jordynne Grace might not be known across the Raw and SmackDown crowd, but the NXT crowd, absolutely. It's basically the same audience as AEW and TNA and the hardcore wrestling fans. So having her appear there as the champion of another promotion does strike up some interest. If you're TNA, then it's great because she has walked out and represented their company on 3 different occasions right now, with that brand being featured prominently on the belt, which I'm sure some people have looked up and decided, oh, well, let me see what she's done over here. It's good for TNA just in exposure. And if they have this crossover, some people titled it an invasion. If they have that, it is only going to be better for TNA. I forgot to say that this is probably the portion of the show that I could label as news, views, and updates, but I'm sure as I'm talking, I've already put the graphic up somewhere in the course of that show, of course of this show. I am keeping my eyes open for that. I am very interested in that. I do not want to diminish the crossover of Stephanie Foucault and Mercedes Moné coming up at Forbidden Door. But, you know, in all honesty, as interesting as that match may be, I think the bigger money draw match is going to be Grace and Perez. Or, more importantly, as people are watching it, is going to be looked at as TNA versus NXT. Natalya. They have talked about the latest on her contract. Specifically, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com has reported that as of right now, Natalya has not signed a new deal with the WWE, and there's an offer on the table and interest from several companies. I don't think that that is any sort of surprise that she is going to draw interest. Now, I don't believe that Natalya would leave WWE long term. Leaving just for a break, maybe to try some new ground, I can totally get that. I don't know if she would do AEW. Now, they had the Owen Hart Cup. But there's a portion of me that's like, would that be enough to draw her in? And she can still go. She posts these videos where she's training other people. And she has shown that she still has the goods. She's probably done all that she's going to do as a top name in WWE. She's never left since she got there. She's won a couple of championships. Over the course of the time that she's been there, you would have thought that she might have had a few more, but she hasn't. But the point is that she's been there. She's done it. She's got a couple of championships, and a couple of new girls have come in along the way and kind of slotted around her, and she has been largely regarded as the veteran / legend of the division, whichever brand that she happens to land on. And that's not a bad spot to be in, but when I think about the reports that there are other companies that are looking for, the first ones that come to my mind is, of course, AEW. I can only imagine that Tony Khan is going to throw money at Natalya to probably get her trying to come in. TNA might have a shot. They might have a shot just because they can lean into that they have a relationship with WWE at this point, so she wouldn't be that far outside of the perimeter of it. But in any case, I am going to read the full Fightful statement, and then we will move on from there. But needless to say, keep my eyes open for wherever Natalya lands. I can't think of any high-end independent. Maybe she might do some stuff in Canada. Maybe she might show up back at Shimmer. It's been decades now, but she might do that. I don't know. So the world is open to her, and she is clearly not going to be an issue of the money. I'm pretty sure that at this stage, she's good on the money. Either her or her husband, TJ, between the two of them, they should be okay. But anyway, let's read this here from Fightful and about Natalya, the reports on her. As of now, WWE and Natalya are still in talks. Recently, Fightful revealed that Natalya's contract is set to expire in June. Despite the fact that she'd been heavily featured on NXT, it looks to be headed in a new direction on WWE Raw. Fightful's Sean Ross Sapp confirmed that as of Thursday, Natalya and WWE have yet to come to terms on a new deal. The two sides have been in talks, however. For those asking about outside interest, there is expected to be outside interest from a variety of companies globally for a number of roles in addition to wrestling. We've had several inquiries about the possibility of Natalya working the Owen Hart Cup tournament, and it was told it was plausible, depending on when the tournament starts. We've not heard anything on the AEW side as to whether or not they expect that. Natalya's deal is up over the next few weeks, her husband, TJ Wilson, is also one of the most highly regarded producers in wrestling. So there we have it. Right now, as we speak, or as this is being recorded, it is still up in the air. There's no solid direction that she may be leaning in. But as they mentioned, her husband is still working with WWE. So I never expect her to be fully outside of the WWE reach. I don't expect that. But who knows? I mean, knowing that her husband is there may give her the motivation to just take a chance. She might feel like, okay, well, he's there. I can always get back. Let me go out here and try that. I guess it all basically boils down to how important is that money versus legacy versus, the fun that she's having. Those three components might, play a lot into decisions that she makes coming up. Well, I think that was pretty quick. That covered a lot. Well, it didn't cover a lot. It covered a bit before we go off in the news. And I guess the last thing I can mention here is that Nikki Garcia, the former Nicole Bella, or Nikki Bella, is confirmed for Traitors Season 3 US. Because I believe there's a Traitors in Australia, and if I'm not mistaken, there was another wrestler that was on there, Miss Ozzy, if I'm not mistaken. But it's confirmed now that Garcia will be a part of the next cast. On June 5th, Peacock took to social media to announce the cast for the third season of Traitors US, and she was one of the names, and the show is being hosted by Alan Cumming. She will be the first wrestler on the series, and it also includes other people who I'm going to be absolutely honest and say very few of these people I know because I'm not a big reality TV watcher. But Bob Harper from Biggest Loser, Bob the Drag Queen from Drag Race, Brittany Hayes from Big Brother, Callan Wigger from Survivor, Chanel Ian from, the Real Housewives of, I don't know what that D is for. Is that Detroit? I don't know. I'm sure that I'm wrong with that. Anyway, Sierra Miller, Summerhouse, Daniel Reyes, Big Brother, Dolores Katina, Real Housewives of New Jersey, Dorinda Melody from Real Housewives New York, and it just goes on and on. Gabby Wendy from The Bachelorette. So you got a couple of those. That's who she's in there with. I'm sure it will be interesting for you reality TV fans out there. And I stress for you reality TV fans out there because I ain't one of them, and I probably would not be watching any of this. I'll read about it when they bring it up. I'm sure she will enjoy her time there. She seemed far more interested in doing reality TV than wrestling in the first place. So, but I won't get on her for that. Anyhow, so we've gone through that. I think this is an appropriate time to take a break. And when we come back, we will go into the WOW Women of Wrestling review. All right, folks, this is the Women of Wrestling review. And here is the slate for this particular episode. It was episode, seasonally speaking, 238. Chronologically speaking, this is episode 90. The air date was June 1st. The title, True Courage. This episode started off with the commentators recapping the contract signing from the week prior, and it transitions into the opening match. So it wasn't a lot going on there. Now, let me just start before I even get rolling with the review here. There's really not a lot to eat into, complain about, or whatever. I mean, yes, there are little things there that took place throughout the course of the show. It's like, okay, well, they could have did that a little better, or maybe they should have tried it this way, or this didn't make a great deal of sense to me. But it's far from the most egregious episode of WoW. Far from it. I find that when WoW does not have a lot of storyline that's built into it, the episodes are much easier to take rather than when we have storyline after storyline and then it makes the baby faces look like an idiot, because that seems to be the ongoing trend that all baby faces are stupid. At least all baby faces are stupid within WoW. It doesn't seem to be a lot of that. So this was a pretty smooth / digestible episode of WoW. Imagine that. I know that some people are like, I can't believe it. No, imagine, seriously. It was relatively good. Now I will point out the bad where I can recall the bad. But overall, I don't know if there's a lot that you can look at and be like, oh, man, I just did not like it. It was actually a pretty tolerable watch. But let's get into it, because the first match that took place on this episode, coming out of the commentators opening it up, was Penelope Pink coming out with Vicky Lynn McCoy and Lana Starr. And this is another thing that got me with the episode, is that there's certain elements that still exist because of real world circumstances, which are a little weird to watch now, because as we know, Vicky Lynn McCoy gave notice. As we know, the Tonga twins gave notice. And spoiler, they're due to be on, I think, for at least one more episode. They come out, the representatives of the Fabulous Four. Before we even go in any further, this is that moment where I'm like, this is why I say David McLean should not be sitting at ringside as the commentator for WoW matches and the guy that's, quote, in charge of the show. Because it's like a crapshoot as to when he wants the match to be fair or not. When he can just turn around at any given time, be like, well, he just banned such and such from ringside, but then turns 1 week later and is Penelope Pink with Vicky Lynn McCoy and Lana Starr, like we don't know what's going to happen. It would be less of a thing to try and justify why he's incapable of doing these things week in and week out if he weren't there. This is just my suggestion. I'm sure WoW would never take it, but either McLean should be in the back as the authority figure and come out every once in a while when things get out of hand. That way, WoW as a company, nor he as a owner / manager or whatever authority figure, matchmaker, would not have to look like I'm just ignoring situations, or he should be the commentator and just the commentator and have some other figurehead placed in, or a committee as they referenced to before. There's never really any rhyme or reason as to when he decides to do it, other than the fact that, okay, it's the third match now and I wanted to be fair, so, I didn't care about the other 5 or 6 of them that you did that was unfair. We'll just do this. Anyhow, that's the side for the point. So they all come out and they do their little pose in the beginning. And Lana Starr opens this up. She opens it up with a promo, which was somewhat, I shouldn't say surprising, but every time I hear it now, she does get better. And I do not know whether Starr is getting these words written out for her and she's just performing it well, or if she is just, hey, here's some bullet points, go out there, this is what you're supposed to do, and she's doing it. But I have to admit, she is getting better with what she says and how she says it. She did the heel thing. She put herself over. Yes, Penelope Pink and the Fabulous Four put over secondary her, but then she puts her over. And then she elevates or she praises Pink. She's like, this is the wild champion that this company needs. And I was like, I have to say I like that because she needs something. She being Penelope Pink. She's not the champion right now. So she needs that cheerleader. Lana Starr's there, and she more or less handed a gimmick or direction that Penelope Pink could go down if they choose to accept it. Her being the, quote, uncrowned champion. Which is a lot of what this promo is kind of the uncrowned championship promo. They're walking around with my belt. Everybody knows that I'm the best, that type of thing. So when Pink gets the microphone, Lana Starr hands it over to her, and Pink gets the mic. Then she goes and she starts putting herself over also. As I just said, they're walking around with my belt. I'm the real champion here, and I'm the real wow factor. There might have been a fumble over a word or two, but outside of that, perfectly fine. I thought this was good stuff. I was pleased that Vicky Lynn McCoy didn't just instantaneously go into the commentating booth. All personal issues aside, because I know that there's some people out there now that have begun to take sides, whether they're Vicky Lynn or the Tongas or the rest of the Wild roster. We're going to keep that neutral and just keep it for the performances that we see. And she's always been a good talker in the commentating booth. I just didn't think it needed to happen all the time. All right, so they get through that, and then we got the debut of Sierra Breeze, who already has a t-shirt in Pro Wrestling Tees, by the way. Did you know that? As a sidebar, one of the things that WoW has really been terrible at is they don't promote their stuff. Like, you would never know that a lot of the women on that roster right now have a variety of shirts that are available for purchase. But you would never know that because they never bring it up. They advertise them having, social media, but they don't go into much beyond that. It's just watch WoW. Anything else that exists underneath that is almost irrelevant. So, again, that's just a little sidebar there. I just thought that it was worth bringing up that this woman, Sierra Breeze, has a shirt. And I know that because I looked and they have her with like some drink in her hand or something like that. I was like, it's another one of those reasons why I say I'm just waiting on the inevitable lawsuit that they're going to get from Sierra Mist or something like that. So anyhow, Breeze comes out, and we know her as being, or at least reportedly as being, a former WWE recruit. Now, I say WWE recruit because from all that I looked up, she never made television. So it's what did she wrestle? She wrestled under Alexis Gray. And I can't say it's former WWE star because she left before she had an in-ring debut. Probably trained there for a while, but there was no in-ring work as far as we know of. She was also released from WWE in 2023. And for those that are asking, that is not Maserati. I saw the comments and I did get the question. I understand why you would say that, but especially when I saw Maserati on AEW television. Ring of Honor, same difference. They share a similar look in terms of their hair, but no, that is not Maserati. That is somebody else. So we can put that to bed. I don't think that Maserati has anything to gain off of jumping into WoW at this point. She's pretty much almost everywhere else on the independents. The WoW might help her, but I don't think it's a deal breaker in her career. But again, that's a whole different thing. So Sierra, I was about to say Sierra missed, but Sierra Breeze comes out. She's got the feathers. She's got the blue hair. I was trying to think of the shade that it might be, but I can't. It was a fairly basic match, but it was a good one. With the exception of maybe like one spot or something like that, it seemed pretty grounded. Again, mostly based, nothing overly complicated, but it was a nice little exchange between two people. And they did not give Sierra Breeze an opening vignette to set her up as being some sort of star first, and I appreciated that. It has been one of my big complaints is that when they debut people, oftentimes, whether they are intended to be a star or not, they would just start them off with, all right, let's give them this vignette to introduce them to the people. But if they're not intended on being anything important in the company or a big deal on the roster or presented as such, it's probably not a good idea to have them get these make you a star moments. Now, anyhow, at some point in the match, we got an exchange between Pink and Breeze. I keep wanting to say Mist, but yeah, but we had an exchange between Pink and Breeze. And at some point, Pink gives Breeze a shoulder block, and then she taunts her by shaking her hips, and there's a kip up by Sierra Breeze, and she does her little hip roll deal just to show that she's okay, I guess. And it offsets Penelope Pink a tad bit, but they still go back into it. I think the one spot in this match that looked like it kind of went a little bit astray is the charge in the corner. There's a segment of the match, and I want to say is following about a pump kick that Sierra Breeze gives and goes for the cover off of Pink. When Pink gets into the corner, Breeze charges in, but she charges in and she leaps at Penelope Pink, despite the fact that Penelope Pink is kneeling down in the corner. So there was really no justified way that she was ever going to hit this woman. In a kayfabe universe, she just literally threw herself into the turnbuckle. Now, the production or whoever did the editing saved some of that because they did a hard cut on the leap and the impact. Well, I should just say the leap. They didn't do two different because they just had a leap on the impact. So unless you were watching, and specifically looking at Pink where she was positioned and Breeze where she threw herself up, it might not have necessarily come off as, oh, well, she just leaped over top of this thing unnecessarily. But she did. She, for whatever reason, she just kind of leaped up and threw her head right into the top turnbuckle, which of course opens up for Penelope Pink to start making the comeback. There's a point in the match where Vicky Lynn McCoy and Lana Starr get a chance to interfere, but not Lana, but Vicky Lynn, to her credit, at least reached up and grabbed the back of Miss' head to try and look like she was choking her out a little bit, rather than just grabbing the wrist. I don't know what it is with Wild and the wrist grabbing. Like everybody that I've seen, especially in recent weeks, if they're trying to intervene or choke, because that's what it looks like they're doing. And maybe it's internally explained a different way. I don't know. But every time it looks like they're trying to get somebody who's just happens to be leaning on the second rope and interfere, it looks like they're trying to choke them, but they grab the wrist to do it. It's like, let's grab the wrist and just pull down rather than reach behind the neck or the head and pull them down that way and make it really look like you're trying to choke somebody out. I said last podcast, while at times to me looks like they do not want to come off as mean. Even though the heels are heels, it's like it's only so far we want to go as far as being mean. And this seems like one of those points. It's like, no, we don't want you to actually choke somebody out. They might get the wrong impression, so let's just do this instead. Now, I don't know if that's the reasons why they grabbed the wrist opposed to the neck. I'm just speculating. And I wouldn't even say that. I'm just just theorizing it. I don't take that seriously. I would certainly hope that they wouldn't tell people, yeah, grab the wrist, that's better. Anyhow, Sarah Miss does a beautiful high cross body off of the top rope at some point in the match. I mean, she got some nice elevation there. This match, for as decent as it is, did not seem to, and I don't know what the hell was going on in the crowd, but it didn't seem to carry, the attention of the crowd. Like, there's portions in this match where if you just look beyond that ring, it's like they're looking at everything else other than the ring. Usually when I see that at a wrestling match, is somebody got into a fight, it's an argument or something like that going on, where it draws everybody's attention away. But I don't know what was going on there. But I promise you look in the back, especially towards the end, it's like something was going on up in the stands, and they just did not care about this match at all. And I really wish I knew what it was that was happening. But it's like eyes are turning to their right up in the stands, and they're trying to see what's going on. And a lot of them look like they just missed the finish of the match. Either that or they didn't care. Now, in fairness to that crowd, Sierra Mist is new. They don't know anything about her. There's no real emotional connection to it. For all intents and purposes, it's a cold match. The match is fine, but other than seeing somebody that you want to see win, there might not have been any reason to pay attention to it. And Pink has never been presented as someone who you should care about. Nor has she really gotten a great deal of mic time for people to hate her so they would want to see her lose. She's just in this, she's not in a bad position, but she's in this interesting neutral gear that she's not too high up on being a hated person, but she ain't in the opposite direction all that far either, if that makes sense. She is someone that the wild audience recognizes as she's a bad guy. But I don't know if they emotionally hate her. Does that make sense? That's about the best way I could really phrase it. But Pink gets the win after Breeze comes out the top rope with the high cross body, and she's unable to score the pin with that. Like I said, it was a nice high cross body, and one of those camera guys got just a wonderful shot with it. Whoever was behind the turnbuckle for her to leap up, it was a great shot. But ultimately, it came down to, I forget what she calls her version of it, but it's largely known as natural selection. Charlotte Flair used to do it, so it's kind of like this float over. They called it a DDT. It ain't a DDT. It's more like a float over neck breaker, float over blockbuster, whatever you want to call it. So, but you get the point. The end result is Sierra Breeze went down to Penelope Pink. She hits her with natural selection, 1, 2, 3, and that was it. For the most part, it was a clean match. And Pink wins, as she should. It was the right outcome. That she should be winning that match. And it's not a position where it makes Sierra Breeze look bad, because she had a decent / competitive outing, and the person that she lost to is a former Wild champion. So I'm not big on people debuting into loss, but I'm okay with it. in cases like this where, like I said, there was no vignette. They didn't try to build it like, oh, and you got to pay attention next week and Sierra Breeze. The things that they normally do and then just cut people down. No, it was just, okay, Sierra Breeze will be there next week. She got in there with Penelope Pink. They had a reasonable match. She came up short against somebody who she should have come up short against. And that was it. And now we can see where Breeze goes from this point out. Whatever the hell happened to the Dojo Defenders? I don't know why that just hit my mind right now. But whatever happened to the Dojo Defenders? It's like they came in, they did that one match, they did a promo that aired on IG, and then they just vanished. I'm sure they're around. I'm sure they will pop up on my TV, but whatever happened to them? Anyhow. So, next segment. This is a portion of the show where I would say it went beyond the show. I don't even know if I want to include this as character work. All of this was a real moment, and it was just captured by WOW cameras. This segment had a recap of Princess Ozzy and Tormenta defeating Los Banditas, but then it went into footage that did not air. And it showed Tormenta thanking Sophia Lopez. Lopez talks as herself about what she'd been going through and the diagnosis that she had. And she unveiled that she was facing cancer, which is never good. It's horrible. But she has been clearly fighting and not wanting to either unveil that or make it a big deal. But they had this moment on camera. And I'll talk about how I got to the moment in a minute, but the moment in and of itself was a very nice moment. Like I said, this was a segment where the curtain came down, in my opinion. And we weren't looking at Sophia Lopez or Tormenta or Jungle Girl, who did get called out. Well, we started looking at that point was Leslie Garza and Christina Ramirez and Erica Porter. There was no character work there. Those are real people. I mean, aside from the end where it's like, hey, what's the WOW motto? But aside from that, this is real people and it was real emotion, and that cannot be faked. And it's not like I'm asking for them to, hey, take your tragedy or your problems and stick it on the screen. But when you come to a point where that you're willing to share or put it out there like that, it is not a growing phase for WOW, but it's something that WOW is not typically used to doing. They might have had one or two other portions where they, had the old, let's pull the curtain back. This is what's really going on with me. Specifically talking about Jungle Girl or The Beast, something like that. But by and large, they don't tend to do these moments. But it was something that I thought that it was a good call by WOW to have done it. They took their time and they celebrated somebody who had given a lot to that company. And I don't think there's any way that you can downplay that. Now, I didn't necessarily think that they took the best route to get to this moment. Only because, and just follow me here, it's not that you don't want to unveil Sophia Lopez and share the path or the journey that she's on, because that is probably going to be very inspiring to somebody. And they needed to hear that. And it looked like Tormenta was really, hey, applaud her. She's fighting, that type of thing. Because she looked like she got hyped and got that crowd up off her feet to give Lopez an ovation. The issue that I had, and it's not really an issue, I shouldn't phrase it that way, is the reasons that I felt like they took the wrong path getting here is because it was a turn on a dime as far as Lopez being babyface versus heel, because I can't imagine her being a heel now, not after doing this. I just can't picture that. She's pretty much thrown herself into being a babyface now. But in leading to this, she being Sophia Lopez, after a loss of her team, goes into the ring and she's yelling at them about, assumably having lost again, being frustrated with them losing. And then she gets slapped in the face by Angel Rose, right? There was no reason for any WoW fans to look at it and be like, all right, well, Sophia Lopez needs to get her revenge because they just wronged her, because she had been pretty much a heel persona with that company for 10 years. She had been presented as a bad guy. And there was no reasons in that moment for her to be sympathetic, even though she got slapped. Because what it would have largely come off as is that, well, good, she got what she deserved because she's been conniving. She's tried underhanded tactics. She hasn't been she hasn't been horribly mean, but she hasn't been terribly nice either. She has always sided with the heel. So when you have that, and then a week or so later it's like, oh, I'm fighting for Sophia Lopez's honor, I don't know if a lot of people got it. They might have watched it, but I don't know if they got it. It's like, fight for honor, why? She's a heel manager. What honor does she have? But again, that's just the route that they took to get to wherever it is that they were trying to go. It was a turn on a dime. And I understand that happens sometimes. It does. I just don't understand how they could not stretch that out or work it better or whatever the case may be. Listen, Captain Lou Albano, and this is going back a number of years, but he was one of the top heel managers in the WWF. That was way back. The Worldwide Wrestling Federation, for those that don't know. But he was the top heel manager there for a while. And I don't think he had any plans of going babyface. But the fact is that outside circumstances forced him into going babyface. When I think his brother had muscular dystrophy. Captain Lou became a advocate for fighting against that. And I think he raised money or donated money, one of the two, to help that cause. Well, he said, I can't go out and be doing this nice guy stuff in the real world and then trying to show up at Madison Square Garden and be hated. So the idea was, well, you got to flip me babyface because I can't do both, especially not in that era. I can't do both, which is probably why you saw a Roddy Piper crack that platinum record over the top of Captain Lou's head and solidify the fact that he was, he's a babyface now. We don't want him in the heel locker room. So I say that to say this. I get the concept of sometimes you have to turn it on the dime. I don't know how that works in a pre-taped environment necessarily, because from what I understand, a lot of this is like 6 months difference. I think you got enough time to try to work that out. And even if you do, you're in the taping schedule. So I would think that there would be at some point a portion of time that could be allotted to explain some of this. And that's all I'm saying. It could have been explained a little better as to why Tormenta was defending the honor of Sophia Lopez and explaining it as a point that people didn't know. Or if she couldn't do it, which maybe she couldn't, Princess Ozzy, her new partner, explain it, to the audience. Hey, look, you may not know this, and I know Sophia Lopez has been a, questionable human being, but you don't know what she's been fighting with behind the scenes. I didn't know what she was fighting with behind the scenes until Tormenta told me. And from what I, it just a segment where they laid the groundwork as to why we're supposed to like her before they got to this point. That's all. But in any case, publicly, Sophia, I hope that everything is moving well. I hope that you get better. A brave moment to come out there and do what you did. Hats off to you. This was the way that wrestling companies take a negative and make it into a positive. The only other thing I would say is, like I said earlier, that the little catchphrase at the end of it is "we fight," whatever it is. I don't know what it is. Something we win. Not to minimize the saying, mind you. I'm not trying to minimize it. But look, it's the only other thing in that segment I'm like, okay. Because I had not heard it before. I was like, well, at what point have we ever heard that as a logo or a motto for WoW? You can say what you want about WWE or TNA for that matter. But when they choose to go into a campaign of, hey, this is the route that we're going to take right now, or we're going to run this thing for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, that's going to be our campaign. They stick to it. And whether you get tired of it or not, you know exactly what they're trying to push. When they were going into the Attitude Era, they made sure everybody knew it. When it was the New Generation Era, they made sure everybody knew it. When it was Ruthless Aggression, they made sure everybody knew it. So all I'm saying, if that is the thing that they're going to do, I would take some time. What creative visual campaign can we come up to work around that? Because if that's the thing that we're going to lean into, that we fight, we struggle, we win, or whatever the hell it is, then let's go with that. Let's not just bring it up when it's convenient to bring it up. Let's do something with it. Next segment. It is the Brat Pack versus the Mighty Mites, this time tagging up with Keta Rush. They have traded off one Bully Buster for another. I am not mad at the match. As you heard me pitch before, I said I believe that the Brat Pack and the Mighty Mites have good chemistry. And I also believe that they could get mileage or several matches out of them if they really tried. But they would have to trim the fat, because I don't think that little J Boogie would be able to maintain that. I don't think that she's ready for that. But Rhythm and Gianni, I think they could get there, and certainly the Mites. But that all said, I am going to say something else that I did not perceive myself as ever saying, is that J Boogie in this match was not that bad. I know. But in this match, and I'm going to stress in this match, she was not that bad. She was somewhat minimized, so I was okay with it. And the things that she did in there, I was pretty much okay with it. And it shocked me. Now, they did turn it around at some point, but it did shock me. I don't know what it is with the Mites that they had to go picking a new partner. I mean, they seemed to be successful with Stephy Slayz to begin with, so I don't know why they just flipped over to another partner for whatever reasons. And it clearly showed that Slayz was in the building, but we'll get to that eventually, or soon enough, I should say. But Keta Rush is there. She filled in as the third partner for the Mighty Mites. Now, let's just go ahead and say Keta Rush looked phenomenal when she walked out here. I mean, I don't know what working out regiment that she's on, but she looks great. Yeah, quite toned, quite fit. The abs did pop out at points in the during the match, but that's neither here nor there. So BK Rhythm starts this match off. Keta Rush covers her ears when Rhythm does her rap. You know, sometimes I'm somewhat hesitant to say that, but yeah, they start off after the rap is done. It dwindles down to BK Rhythm versus Keta Rush. The commentators started talking about miscommunication within the Brat Pack, and I mean, I guess when I heard him say it, I was like, what was the miscommunication exactly? It's other than J Boogie lost. I didn't know what exactly the miscommunication was. Maybe I misunderstood the comment, or maybe I wasn't remembering something. If there was another portion where the Brat Pack miscommunicated with each other and knocked each other out or something, let me know. I honestly don't remember. Maybe it'll come to me later. I don't know. So anyhow, Rhythm and Rush start this thing off. I really wish Keta Rush would take some booking someplace else. I honestly do. Especially with her background that she moved over to MMA. She seems very competent as a competitor, as a combat artist, if you want to call it that, or somebody that deals in combat sport. But I think that she could probably just use it being someplace else. Now, I was informed that they probably do not want a lot of them, the original Wild Girls that are doing that, to take bookings elsewhere. That is unfortunate. It would be nice if they did, but it has been presented to me that it is plausible that management may not want them to do those things because of intellectual property and so on and so forth. But anyway, the match was fine, or at least it started off that way. Rush looked good against Rhythm. She has a basic move that she does, but that basic move she does well. She said like that drop kick seems like she gets some pretty good height on it, does Keta Rush. And they did drop kicks, a couple of times here. She was pretty good in that. And the sling blade that she did later on in the match was just outstanding. I mean, she almost looked like she was about to fly out the goddamn ring, but still, it was a nice, fun thing. But anyhow, Rush gives a drop kick to Rhythm. Rhythm put a lot of time into this match. She got a drop kick in, and she is struggling, reaching out, trying to staggering, trying to make the tag. And you can see that she's trying to keep herself in the match, not look like I can just walk across here and make the tag. That's what I'm saying. She was constantly in a state of, oh God, help me, that type of thing. There seemed like there was kind of a weird cut at one point when which one was Sugar? When Sugar gets into the ring, Rhythm tried to give her a big kick, and I'm not saying that they changed anything. It's just that the camera cut so fast it almost looked like it was like it almost skipped over something. But I'm almost positive that it didn't. So Rhythm had been in the ring with Rush, Spice, Sugar, and had not managed to get out as of the moment. She was stuck in the ring dealing with all of them. And she kept doing just what I said. She was selling and selling and selling. Taking a chop, dropping back down to her knees. Another chop, dropping back down to her knees. Taking a drop kick, getting the double team. I mean, why the Mighty Mites were not introduced to a team like the Brat Pack to help make them look good to begin with? I don't know. They could have saved that squash match that they got for last call for later on down the line if they had to do it at all. This is I'm not going to say it's as good as the Mights have ever seen, but they look good against them. As stated before, yes, they are small, but it's not like there is a massive towering difference between Rhythm and Gianni and the Mights. They are big enough to where the Mights still are shown as being visually smaller than their opponents. But they're not so small that it looks like they should just be getting tossed around and beat up and easily handled the way that last call would have done it. So Spice gets a reprieve, and I don't know what this particular move that they were trying to do was, but BK Rhythm was on her knees. Spice runs off into the ropes. She looks like she's trying to deliver a knee lift, and I don't know if Rhythm was supposed to take this knee lift a lot, because it looked like she blocked it. But then Spice stops immediately and she starts talking with the fans like, hey, I got, that type of thing. And then Rhythm comes up and gives her a German suplex, release German. So that one little thing right there, I don't know if that knee lift was meant to do something or not. I have no idea. I would have to ask one of, like, if they were willing to volunteer that information. Like, was that supposed to actually connect? What was the spot supposed to be here? But it didn't matter because, the match still moved on pretty smoothly. That was one tiny thing, and I don't think it's enough to take away from the enjoyment of the match. After the German suplex, Rhythm gets in. Not Rhythm, but Gigi Gianni gets tagged in. And we know how I love me some Gigi Gianni. She always looks like she is focused into what she is doing. Rhythm and Gianni continue to grow on me, as have the Mights. And that's largely because of the compliment that they have with each other. Gianni gave a fantastic knee drop right to the back of Spice's back in the seated position. And when she tries to come off the rope, she being Gigi Gianni, Spice drops herself back so that she doesn't get hit with a drop kick. Immediately goes for the pin. Gianni's able to get out of it. We follow that up with a nice power slam by Gianni. It was a duck underneath the clothesline, and she catches her with one. It was a bit of an awkward reversal of shot because we were going from one POV to the next, And Gianni catches her with a rear chin lock out of that. And just the smoldering focus that Gianni has when she's in there. She looks like she could just crank down and tear this woman's neck off or her head off if she really was so inclined. I really enjoy those two. I don't know how much more praise I can give. I really enjoy the two of them, Gianni and Rhythm. So Gianni charges in at Rush, and she charges in at Sugar, and takes a swipe at them. They both come out. The two other members of the Brat Pack get on Spice, and it was maybe you could argue that it was overdone, but it was still at least done with some level of, let's be logical here. Gianni gets them in. The ref goes over and he stops them right there at the corner. No, you can't come in here. And they're arguing with a ref. Turn around. They're beating up on our friend and behind the ref's back, of course. Boogie and BK Rhythm have her in a Boston Crab / camel clutch collectively. Here is where my surprise came in. Gianni tags out, Boogie tags in. And I honestly was fully expecting to hate this portion of the match. And I know I said it with some sort of hesitation before. I say it now. It's like I could not, in all fairness, say that Boogie did a bad job in this instance. I couldn't say it. You know, I try to be as down the middle as I can, and regardless of my personal feelings, I have to give it where it's due. It was simple stuff, but it was executed well. Boogie comes in, she gives a snapmare to Spice, charges off the ropes, and I appreciated the fact that she did not try to work in some goddamn dance move before she went into this flying leg drop that she did. And the leg drop looked good. Looked good. She flew across, and it wasn't like Spice was down. She gave her leg drop in a seated position. It was almost more like a leg lariat, more than a leg drop. And I thought that she did a fine job with that. Not just the leg drop, the suplex that she gave. She, for a moment there, looked like she was trying to execute with some conviction and some drive, and I'm trying to win here type mojo. And it was 2 or 3 moves, but those 2 or 3 moves that she did, I was like, all right, well, good on her. Gianni came back in. She gave an uppercut that was so hard that she pushed herself off her feet. And I was like, but I still loved it. I really did, because she recovered so fast. It wasn't like she like, oops, my bad. She got up like, I'm so proud of myself that I gave this badass uppercut to her. But then Spice gets up and she starts fighting back. She's fighting from underneath, and Gianni's selling it. And she looks great when she said Keta Rush comes in there and she gives her a phenomenal drop kick. Again, I said that at the beginning, Rush had some ups on the drop kick. This one was probably the best one that she had in the match. Again, a basic move, but she connected with that thing, and Gianni sold it just magnificently. Took that thing and rolled back into the corner. The second drop kick was Rush giving one to Rhythm, who was waiting in the corner. BK Rhythm standing there as Boogie gets tagged in from Gianni. Boogie charges in. Rush ducks underneath her. Rush catches Rhythm with the drop kick while she's not paying attention. Then she gets that flying sling blade that I was talking about earlier in the match. I like that they cut the camera angle, because it at least took away from the fact that Boogie had to potentially wait until Rush was back up on her feet. So that took away some of the edge of what is she doing to waste time in these 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. Rush charges back in. She caught her with a nice sling. I mean, it was just a nice little float around that brought her down. Boogie started fighting back as the Brat Pack went over there against the Mites. I did not even see too much smiling in the match like I had been seeing with Little J Boogie. I can't stand that name. J Boogie. Why can't they just drop the little? Why does she have to be Little J Boogie? That's so stupid. Anyhow, let me not get off on that. I was praising this young lady. Let me not go into that thing. So she takes Keta Rush out of one corner. She tries to shoot her off into the second one. She rushes back in. Now, Keta seemed like she got out of the ring a little, maybe a second or two too fast, but I don't think it was enough to offset the match. Got a nice springboard in across on Boogie. Springboard to the high cross body. Boom. 1, 2, 3. I am glad Rush won this. She needed to do something to win. Now, here is where I started having developing problems with the segment, not the match. So we get this. Keep in mind that the Brat Pack had moved across the ring to the opposite corner to go beat up on the Mighty Mites while Rush and Boogie were in the ring. Rush pins Boogie. She looked like she was about to go out there and try to help the Mites, but then the ref was like, nope, come here and raise her hand. Then she just raised her hand. Didn't try to help them out or anything. I was like, oh, okay, well, we're going to skip past that. But that's not horrible. The Brat Pack now realizes that they have lost. Or more importantly, that BK Rhythm has lost for them. So they get back into the ring. Baby faces leave. And the boombox is picked up. I'm sure anybody that saw this knew what was coming, and you could see it coming from a mile away. We've got the boombox in the hand. Boogie is looking concerned. And Gianni and Rhythm stand there for a moment, and then I don't even know if I want to call that a shot across the head. I mean, it was a shot across the hands, if nothing else. I really tried to excuse that. I was like, if you're going to gimmick the boom box, let's do a better job than that. So, fortunately for them, the camera was catching this from the back of BK Rhythm so that you did not fully see how badly the shot came across. But having seen how much of her hands it caught, I would assume that it came across to be pretty bad. Probably nowhere near her head if I was going to take a guess. And she goes down. So I guess we can say at this point that the Brat Pack have fired or excommunicated Jay Boogie. The most damage that boombox seemed like it had is when Rhythm just threw it down and it hit the floor. But they were trying to sell this like they cracked it across her skull. This is part of the reason why when I gave the pitch for, hey, this is what I would do if I was going to have a Mighty Mice Brat Pack feud and I was going to get rid of BK Rhythm, because that was one of the things I was saying. They need to drop her off before this gets anywhere. In fact, now that I'm saying it, part of what I was pitching for has happened. this particular 6-person and any team that they could have jobbed to, and that happened. So we've got the assault on God damn, I keep wanting to say on Boogie. She takes the hit in the head. They try to sell this like that. Now I'd have preferred if they did what I said, just have a nice tandem move that they could have done that could have been perceived as hurting her badly. If I were going to make a suggestion, I would have said have Gianni hook her up into a pile driver position and have Rhythm spike her. Assuming that Gianni can deliver a safe pile driver. But I only say her because she looks like she's the stronger of the two. I would have done that. I would have probably had them do that twice or something like that and then just break the boombox, throw it down, stomp on it, as the punctuation to her getting put out, because her getting hit in the face with the boombox and then the stuff that took place afterwards it underperformed. I'll put it there. It underperformed. Rhythm and Gianni did as good as I think they could do in this instance. Boogie, as hard as it is for me to say and admit, I think that she did as good as she could do in this instance. When she took the hit in the head, she was trying to sell it, and she did. She crumpled on the ground. She's clutching her forehead. She's writhing around in pain. I think she did what she was capable of doing. It just, the gimmick or the prop around her did not help facilitate how we're supposed to feel. But then as that's happening, Stephy Slayz comes out and she charges into the ring and she runs the Brat Pack off. Now, I started to have a problem with the segment at that point because I was willing to excuse the hit. But in all due respect to Stephy Slayz, I mean, I think it's been, 10 years now? I think it's safe to say that Stephy Slayz has not ever been presented as a world beater or a main event player in that company. I think that's a safe statement to say. And, nothing against her. It's just that's the way that she's been presented. So the idea that her alone would run into that ring and then both members, Gianni and Rhythm, would just run because of her presence, I did not get. And just not out of her. It'd have been different if it had been one of the other top girls, if it had been Santana Garrett or the Beast or whoever else, somebody that's been presented as somebody who could handle that situation. But this was not it. The second thing here is that it turned into a bullying angle, and you just had the bully buster, Keta Rush in the ring. Why wasn't she the one to do this? This is exactly what I was talking about when I said I think that Wild missed the boat on a couple of things. And they did it again. They started this thing up with Steffi, and not for nothing, Steffi did a fine job delivering the verbiage. It just makes more sense for somebody who's like, I'm standing up to bullies, to be the bully buster, who was just in the ring 30 seconds ago. It doesn't sit well to have the bully buster who just walked right at that ring, clearly in the building, sees this thing, and then somebody else shoot past, potentially her in the back room, and come save the day. As this is going on, David McClain decides that I'm going to go into the ring and try to get some words with her. I mean, now granted, it's presented as, I can't believe this would happen. This is horrible. I'm going to go into the ring. It's presented like that. And then we got two EMTs that come into the ring also. That's why I was like, they overdid this. It wasn't enough to visually justify having EMTs in the ring when that thing did not come close to the head. There's no bumps, no bruising, no blood, and I'm sure they don't want blood on the screen, but you get what I'm saying. You understand where I'm going with this. There's nothing, if you were just watching this and you didn't know any of these people, you would not get the impression that this was a serious angle, because it didn't look it. Stephy Slayz did a phenomenal job of making it come off that way. She tried her best to get it there, but just in the sense of how does this look, how is this presented, it just, why? And it didn't look like people in the audience were taking it seriously either, because you got two EMTs that came in there literally for nothing. They just walked in to stand there and look at Stephy Slayz, David McClain, and Jay Boogie. And whatever rug that Jay Boogie gave me that said this is better, that I was standing on while watching this match, she has yanked out from underneath me once they got to this segment. Not just her, but her and David McClain collectively just grabbed that thing and yanked it out from underneath my feet. So we got David McClain. He comes into the ring, and like I said, he's wanting to get a talk with her. So you just got busted in the head with this boom box. What do you feel about that? Now, that's not the question that he asked verbatim. But I'm just saying, is that the time to come ask him, hey, you just got knocked out. How do you feel? So he comes into the ring with the microphone to get an interview with Jay Boogie, who just got clocked. I mean, if we're going to go with the idea that the boombox actually connected. And rightfully so, Stephy Slayz grabs the mic for her. It's like, no, she's not okay. And she gives this promo about she's tired of it. She's tired of the bullying and so on and so forth. Which, again, like I said, with a perfect opening for Keta Rush, but that's neither here nor there. They've already done it. Slayz gives maybe the most passionate promo I've ever seen her do. And it cannot be discounted that she seemed like she put some oomph into this. Like she tried to make this speech work. The problem with the speech is nothing that she did or said. The problem with the speech is where it's positioned. And I'll give credit and go a step further and say that is my view of it. And I'll explain. And that I don't particularly care for if you have a emotional moment in wrestling to try and follow behind that nearly immediately with another emotional moment. We've just had a segment ago, a real emotional moment. And I don't mean just real in the sense that people could feel it. I mean real in the sense that this is actually happening. This woman is going through something right now, and she's fighting to get better, so on and so forth. And I forgot to mention that they brought up the Endorphasm Foundation Jungle Girls thing, which I probably should put a link up for, endorphasmfoundation.org. I'm trying to give myself a reminder so I can set the link in there. So if you're interested in dealing with anything about that, you can click and check it out. But they just had a real moment in that. And then to try to follow it up with this is not that it was bad, but I don't think it can deliver the same impact that it could have if it was the sole emotional moment of this episode. In my opinion, this thing should have been placed on another episode away from Sophia Lopez unveiling her diagnosis and whatnot. And, of course, J Boogie threw this thing. And this is why I say that she yanked the rug out from underneath me, because as much as I wanted to give credit in the match, Dave McClain standing there looking like he's about to burst into tears. And J Boogie either looks like she was a small child who just got scolded and I'm sorry, mom, or she was rescued from a basement from being physically abused by somebody and like, thank God you saved me. The way that she's sitting there clutching and hugging onto this woman at the end of this thing is just I'm sorry. I just could not take it seriously. I just couldn't. Like, you got two EMTs in the ring. Neither one of them did anything. They just walked in there and stood. Didn't check her eyes, her neck, her head. Why would they get an EMT in there in the first place? You had people out there who allegedly got their leg broke. Didn't see EMT then. Or went through tables and whatnot. It's like, where were these guys at that point? But now this thing, she gets clocked in the head. I'm like, what are you made out of? Tissue paper? I mean, yeah, it's going to hurt, but give me a break. So, yeah, they sat there and they hugged and, this is horrible and we're not going to stand for it and this, that, and the other. So, whereas I did not care for the end of it, I did not mind the match in of itself. The match in of itself, I was okay with. Boogie got better in the match. Just looked ridiculous at the end to me. And now we're going to branch off and we'll get Stephy Slayz and J Boogie versus the Brat Pack. And I will go on record right now and say that the Brat Pack needs to win that. It might not be the same team, might not be the same person, but it is definitely in the vein of what I was pitching. Like, that needs to happen. And then they need to move on from that. They need to get maybe 1, 2, possibly 3 matches with Slayz and Boogie, and ultimately the Brat Pack should go over, and Boogie and Slayz can move on to something else. But Boogie needs to be doing something else in general. Doesn't need to be in there with that team. And they never explained why she joined the Brat Pack to begin with. They talked about it a lot in commentary, but she never spoke a word as to why she was in it. Another reason why it becomes hard for me to care, because this, again, is the decisions that the baby faces make. How many more times on WoW, it seems like it's an ongoing theme, how many more times do we have baby faces who are looking for the approval or the love or the acceptance of a heel here somewhere, only to get turned or spurned? How many more times do we need that? You were my friend. Why would you do this to me? Where else? Ozzy running around asking every heel that she, man, let me not bump it up that far, but asking heels for help rather than going to any babyface. Ariel Sky groveling at the feet of Coach Campanelli for acceptance. J Boogie, a babyface who just decided to lodge herself in with 2 heels without rhyme, reason, or explanation. How many more it is? Because I'm sure there's another one coming around the corner. I'm positive. I don't know who, I don't know when, and I don't know why it's going to happen. Why I won't even know why it's going to happen. But there's going to be another babyface that's going to be dumb, and they're going to hook up with some heel just because that's my friend. Hey, anyhow. All right, so the next segment was the recap of the Beast and Abilene Mavericks feud. This does good in helping prepare the viewing audience for the main event. It was not a thing, but I do have to note, when I was watching the recap of it, there's a portion in there where you can see David McClain give the Beast to Iggy to look at the hard cam. I was like, I don't know if you might have caught that, but yeah, there's a shot where we're on the side and there's the camera looking Beast first. David McClain is behind her, right? And as he's holding the microphone to her and she's looking at him, look at his face. And he gives like the quick Iggy with his eyes like, go look that way. And then that's when she turns and she hits the hard guy. Like I said, that's not a big thing. It's just something I caught. Segment after that, we got Abilene Maverick visiting Jesse Jones in the locker room, and she gives her with a bottle of Kentucky bourbon. This is suggested that is a bribe to help Maverick. And Jones agrees. But as this segment ends, we see the All-American girls in the background with the bandana in hand. The camera turns to see that, which I was like, okay, I can get with that. It's not as bad as the whole taking the camera crew to the veterinarian's office and we just supposed to ignore that as veterinarians. But the camera turns, they catch the All-American girls at the end of that just to give you the kind of hint of what potentially might happen. And this is presented as something that happens earlier in the day. Next segment, the announcements begin for the main event. The Beast is into the ring. Then they cut to the, air quotes, live video of Abilene Maverick waiting for Jesse Jones. And she's looking at the clock and she's being impatient. And she's like, I knew it. I knew she wasn't going to come. Now, that could be taken one of two ways. One, it can be taken as the heel who just I don't trust anybody, and I gave her a task to do, and she couldn't do it. And so you're only as good as for what you did for me lately. You can take it that way. And I could understand that because Abilene Maverick's a heel. And it would fit into that personality. But on the other side of that, like the idea that she would just immediately jump into, I knew she wasn't going to do that when she didn't already help, she being Jesse Jones, already helped her like twice previously without fail. I don't know why all of a sudden it's now a case of, hey, I couldn't trust her. So anyhow. But we've got that, and we know Jesse, as of the segment in Abilene Maverick's custom-made VIP office / locker room, that Jesse Jones assumably is not going to make it. So we have the match. Abilene Maverick walks out to the ring. The Beast is already there. And I don't know if I would say I would get as the big fight feel necessarily, but it was as big a fight feel as maybe WoW will do. This match was entertaining. Didn't seem overly complicated, but it was entertaining, and it just comes off to me as another phase of trying to either make or keep the Beast at the top of the hierarchy as a top girl in the company. The Beast is somewhat presented like a Goldberg or Road Warriors, or take your pick of any unstoppable monstrosity that's ever been in wrestling that's muscle bound and got muscles that they know what to do with. Take your pick of anybody that was presented that way, in that you cannot hurt me. I have to hurt me. And that's exactly what happened here. The Beast is in control of the match for the first couple of, let's say, minute and a half. Until she gets Abilene Maverick in the corner. Now she rams her shoulder into Abilene's abdomen a couple of times. Then the Beast goes out to the other side, and then she gets ready to charge in. Abilene Maverick pulls herself out of the corner. The Beast rams her shoulder into the post. And as stated, you cannot hurt me. I have to hurt me. So this was a case of Abilene Maverick just outmaneuvered the Beast, and she couldn't do it on her own, which, could be the heel thing to do, especially out of a swarmy, conniving heel like Abilene Maverick. So once it gets the advantage, she goes on the outside. She starts banging the Beast's head into the mat. She's trying to keep the advantage. There does come a point here where the count was completely irrelevant because it looked like it didn't even bother after a certain point. I actually counted up to like 17 on one of these. It was one of the moments when it was out, because they did break the count at one point. But it didn't really matter because they were stretching this thing out as far as they could. So they stay on the outside for a while. There's forearm shots. The Beast is taking them, and then she reverses it on Abilene Maverick, turns it around, and then she starts giving forearm shots to Maverick. Some of those people that's behind this are looking like they're having the time of their lives. Like this is great. All right. So they didn't seem like they had a lot of instances of being concerned about this person's well-being or whatever the case may be. But they looked like they was enjoying themselves, whether they were paid to do it or not. But that was the point when the Beast was beating up on Abilene Maverick. I was like, yeah, I'm sure this has gone beyond the count of 10. I am 99.9% positive that this has exceeded that time limit. So, the Beast gets back in after brutalizing Abilene Maverick. There is another point where the Beast is put up against steel rather than having to get hurt by anything the Abilene Maverick does. Beast comes out on the floor, grabs Maverick's hair. Maverick kicks out the leg of the Beast, then grabs the Beast's hair, and then charges her shoulder first into the steps. And give that woman credit. She took it like a champ. I mean, she flung herself into those steps. And it's just, you have to do that. There wasn't no soft way for her to be taking that. She drove herself in there, and she drove it good, and I bravo to the Beast. She is another young lady who has gotten better. I still am not overly convinced, like some people who are on their comment board, and they're like, the Beast should go to WWE. The Beast should be wrestling against Bianca Belair. The Beast, I know that sounds wonderful, but I don't think that she is ready for that yet. Could she get there? Sure. She certainly looks coachable. She certainly looks like she will follow the instructions of the person that's leading. But I do not think that she's ready for that at this moment. Nor do I think that she wants to go, really. And she would have to probably wrestle in multiple locations before she got to a point where she was ready or possibly willing to go anywhere other than WOW. So let's get to the finish of the match. The finish here, as Abilene Maverick was picking the Beast apart, she takes the Beast over to the corner. And when she gets in the corner, Abilene, after she charges in and nails the Beast with a nice knee lift, hooks the arm of the Beast and drapes herself over the ropes so that she's got gravity on her side. Now, of course, remember, this is the match where the Beast has already charged herself into the post. This is the match where she's already been thrown into the steps. But this is also one of the things that's like, this probably would have been a little bit more complimentary for him if the Beasts were, I'm not going to say the Beast, if the match was given more time for the Beast to sell it. That's all. I think that she had to move a little bit faster than what she might have done normally. If it had a little bit more time on it, she probably would have been able to sell the idea that my arm is hurt or it's shot or it's in pain. Because what she does next, I would imagine would have got a bigger pop if Abilene Maverick were given the time to really work on that arm and work on the shoulder and make that a selling point of the match, to where by the time the Beast is put into this position and she does what she's doing, where she powers Abilene Maverick up, one-armed, this superhuman strength, it would come off a little bit better had the audience, both live and viewing, got the opportunity to see what she was fighting against. And that is not the mortality of herself, but the fact that she is human, and she and that she's fighting through the pain, and she's getting through this. So the Beast hoists Abilene Maverick up, and she walks her out to the middle of the ring. You can see Abilene like, put me down, stop it, that type of thing. And then once she gets her almost dead center, the Beast gives her a Beast Bomb and drops her right there. If there's anything that I can say, looking at the Beast Bomb in this instance, she probably should have gone for the cover right then and there. That's subjective, obviously. But when she hit the bomb, she got right back up and just like posed for the people like, rah, I'm the Beast, that type of thing. But it was almost like a moment where she caused the pop to go a little bit flat. I mean, yes, they did applaud, they did cheer, but there was really no reason for her to get right back up away from doing the Beast Bomb. I mean, the match was won. She had it. It was happening right there. So when she got up and did her Beast pose, she pretty much got right back down and then rolled Abilene Maverick up for the pin. End of story. Like I said, her decision to get up was subjective, whether you believe that she should have did it or not. But there we have it. The Beast wins, and the Beast gets the confetti and the lights and the celebration and all that good stuff. This is probably every reason that Princess Aussie had issues. Yeah. I said, this is probably every reason that in the kayfabe universe, this is probably every reason that Princess Aussie had issues. Like, everybody else got a confetti drop. Everybody else got praise and David McClain screaming at the top of his lungs and all that stuff like that. She didn't get any of that. It would have been a perfect opportunity for her to go heel, but yeah, Aussie doesn't need to do that. She didn't stay babyface. So anyhow, that's neither here nor there. The Beast wins. The Beast wins the championship. She stands there in the shower of confetti. Abilene Maverick has lost. So where she goes from here, what she does is going to be questionable. I did look at a little bit of the next episode. Some clips, not all, some. But I know enough to see that they have plans, at least maybe to write Abilene off of TV for a short amount of time, possibly. But we'll see. Dave McClain fumbling up his words in the commentary, although I can't really get on him for that because, sometimes your mind runs a little bit faster than your mouth. I've done it too. But overall, the show is okay. Or the episode was okay. It didn't have a lot of build up in individual things. There was no build to Pink and Sierra Mist. There was no explanation or justified build as to why we would accept Sophia Lopez, although the segment justified it afterwards. There was something behind the Brat Pack and the Mighty Mites. But that was mostly built on the Brat Pack side as a reason to get rid of Boogie. And then they picked up afterwards with Stephy Slayz and Boogie going forward. And then we got to the main event, which was the chase that the Beast had been on for weeks, if not months, to win the championship. And she has now finally got it. She is the champion of WoW again, officially for the second time. Not the third. And now why do I say the third? Is because during the unaired season of WoW, she lost the championship. They just awarded it back to her, or more importantly, they did not acknowledge the loss because it happened to Tessa Blanchard, who was not there anymore. Speaking of that, as I brought that up earlier, it's kind of weird to look at these shows and then seeing people that you know develop some sort of beef with WoW, but they're still on the show of WoW. I know for a fact that there's at least another time that we're going to see the Tongans at some point get back in there and show their face on WoW's television, despite the things that have been said. And David McClain's probably a better person than most, because I think most promoters, including me, if I was in that position, would probably go out of my way to remove them from the television show. It would just be a lost match. That and or once I did it, then I would have an explanation as to why they've gone and where they left the company or whatever the case may be. But they would be written out of that show if I had my way. And does anybody ever update WoW's website? I mean, they got pictures of people on there that ain't been in there for like years. Like, why are they still pushing Kiera Hogan or Fire and Adrenaline? Why are the pictures of them still up there? The second that the Tonga Twins got on anybody's podcast or went on Twitter and said anything bad about my company, I would have pulled them. They still up there. So I don't know. I do not know. But as we typically do at this point, it is time to address the next episode of WoW. So, if this is where you want to be completely surprised and you don't want to know anything about it, this is your time to skip ahead. The warning has been issued. All right, so here's the preview of the next episode of WoW as it has been presented to me. This will be season 2, episode 39. So 239, episode 91 for chronological purposes. The title will be Champions Rise. Newly crowned WoW World Champion, the Beast has finally established that she's the top of the WoW roster, but so many predators on the hunt for gold, how long can the Beast hold on? After enduring attack after attack from top tier, Ariel Sky and her newfound protectors, the Mother Truckers, fight to prove that the powerful Coach Campanelli can't always have it her way. With Rebel Hayes in her corner, Fury stirs up a frenzy in the ring against the resolute G.I. Jane. Animal Instinct aims to wrangle the sweetest duo at WoW, Sugar and Spice, and Lana Starr and her faction take on the daunting Island Dynasty, the Tonga Twins, and Tiki Chamorro, led by the Beast. In the main event, former and current champions clash in an epic battle that is sure to end in mayhem. I doubt that seriously, because it never ends in mayhem. They always oversell it. Again, fascinating to know that the Island Dynasty still has representation on the show. I know that they want to just use the matches that they had, considering that this was allegedly shot in December. They probably just need to go ahead and use it up. But that makes a great case for this is why you have cold matches or dark matches that you could shoot and record and put into the show if necessary. That probably would have worked out some for them. It is an interesting episode that we have to look forward to. I don't know why they keep having Animal Instinct pop up. Like one week, Goldie calls a single, then there's Animal Instinct, then it's back to a single, then it's back to Animal Instinct. Pick a lane and stick with it. I don't know what the attack after attack on Ariel Sky is. Maybe they're including her getting beaten up for the trophy, but I can't accept that as an attack on her because she went back to him and then she got beat up for winning. So, I mean, maybe once. And now she's got protectors. I guess the Mother Truckers have decided to be that. Who else is in there? Fury and G.I. Jane. Technically two baby faces. I don't know where that's going to go. I will actually be pulling for Sugar and Spice when they go against the Animal Instinct. Matter of fact, that might have been the match that I said. It was like the second week, and I think that the first 2 weeks is almost, I'm not going to take credit for it, but it's almost where I have pitched. Now that I think about it. They could go in that direction. I doubt that they will, but they could go in that direction. If they do, I'm taking credit for that. You're welcome. Wow, I'm going to steal Coach Campanelli's catchphrase too. You're welcome. So anyhow, that's that, folks. That is the episode. That is the review. Overall, pretty decent show. I know I don't say that about WoW often, but a pretty decent show overall. The show, if I was going to rank it or grade it, probably a B. It's pretty high for me. Probably a B show. B minus maybe, but B all the same. And I can live with that if they could follow it up, if they could just keep that going. But I know the second they start introducing storyline and plot and continuity, it's going to tank, and it's going to tank hard. And I wish I could say that I believe differently, but at this point, they're going to have to prove it to me. They're going to have to make me a believer. I don't know if they can make me a believer right now. But I am going to tune in. We will see. And that's it, folks. That covers the entirety of the review. I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode as you do. For those who sent emails and direct messages and comments, thank you for those as well. It is what helps make this show interesting. I love it. Just getting into the conversations about pro wrestling and whatnot. Whether that be people that's listening, people that's outside of WOW that's in the industry that listen, whether that be people in WOW that's in the industry that listen. I thank everybody. And of course, if you want to catch this, you can get it on greater podcast platforms, although it primarily pushes out to YouTube. If you are on YouTube, do the YouTube things, like, share, subscribe. It does help. Gets people in with the attention on the show. As I stated before, the podcast goes out to greater podcast platforms. All you got to do is look it up, WPN. It should pop up. If you cannot find it there, then go to WPNWrestling.com. WPNWrestling.com, centerpiece, the nexus for all things for the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. And it has every episode of the podcast pushed out to it. And it also has a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week stream that is always on the channel that you can catch and watch some classic women's wrestling from some of those people that you may recognize on WOW's TV right now. And on that note, a much needed thanks again. And I will close, as I always do, with this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long. And we'll see you next go round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.